Hey, good morning. It's Mark here with another morning rant. This happened a couple of days ago. I'm just getting to it. Mitch Mcconnell told the truth. This is how Mitch McConnell, I'm not putting this on all Republicans. I'm not putting this on all politicians. But Mitch McConnell told the truth about how he thought about black folk in America, African Americans in America, African American descendants of slaves, ADOS. Let's just go right to it. Let's just get right into it. There's no reason for us to bloviate and bluster. Let's just go right into it.
For voters of color who are concerned that without the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, they're not going to be able to vote in the midterm.
Well, the concern is misplaced because if you look at the statistics, African American voters are voting in just as high a percentage as Americans. A recent survey, 90.
Did you miss it?
The concern is misplaced because if you look at the statistics, African American voters are voting in just as high a percentage as Americans.
Why would you differentiate African Americans and Americans? Aren't we all Americans? Why would you differentiate? Why would you say that African Americans are voting at a higher percentage than Americans? You could have said African Americans vote at a higher percentage than any other American. You could have said African Americans vote at a higher percentage than most Americans in the United States. Why did you have to differentiate Americans and African Americans? Let's go ahead and get the full context.
A recent survey,
I want you to hear it
African
again.
American voters are voting in just as high a percentage as Americans. A recent survey, 94% of Americans thought it was easy to vote. This is not a problem.
It is a problem. What's in the John R. Lewis Voting Rights legislation? Restoring pre-clearance. What's pre-clearance? What is pre-clearance? Excuse me. Well, the 1965 Voting Rights Bill, 1964, 1965, because I get them kind of confused sometimes. You got the 1964 Voting Rights Act and the 1965 Civil Rights Act, somewhere up in there. I probably got it mixed up. But one of the things the federal government wanted to do was pre-clear some of the state rules and regulations. Why they wanted to pre-clear them? Because most places in the South, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Florida, Texas, Arizona, Tennessee, Kentucky, the Carolinas, you name it, Virginia, most places in the South, they would have stuff like poll taxes and certain kind of restrictions and certain days that black people can vote. They would put in certain parameters to make it hard for people to vote. All right, so they had to get pre-clearance by the federal government because the federal government has no vested interest per se in places like Alabama, Mississippi. So get a nonpartisan person from outside the state to look at this and say, well, that rule disenfranchises certain people. So no, you can't do that. And for years it worked. Republicans still had their majorities wherever they had their majorities. Democrats were still able to vote and get people elected as long as they got pre-clearance, as long as they made sure that Republicans and Democrats were abiding by the same rules. Because the ultimate goal in this country, the ultimate goal in this country is to make sure that everybody starts on an equal playing field. Because the onus has been, if everybody starts on an equal playing field, we all can rise up and be somebody. But there's always somebody putting in a parameter. There's always somebody putting in a roadblock or a pothole or a detour for certain people. So when it came to voting rights, some of the southern states, no different than Reconstruction, some of the certain southern states had to get their rules and laws pre-cleared through the Justice Department. Shelby v. Holder. What year was that? 2013, Shelby v. Holder. That lawsuit went to the Supreme Court, and the John Roberts Supreme Court struck down pre-clearance. And once they did that, the floodgates were open. Once they did that, the floodgates were open. What were the floodgates? The floodgates were southern states, for the most part. I'm not going to say the northern states didn't do it either, but the southern states, for the most part, they started putting in restrictions on black and Latino voters. Black and Latino voters. Making it harder for black and Latino voters to vote. And in Virginia, they said that it was struck down because they put some of their laws were struck down because it was surgical in the precision that they had in targeting black voters. So when Mitch McConnell says African Americans voted a higher percentage than Americans, he's not lying. This is how his brain works. He considers African Americans as African Americans, but they are not Americans. So he has no what's the word I'm looking for? He doesn't care about disenfranchising voters, especially in his state where he's going to win every time. Now, Mitch McConnell is from Alabama, but he had family in Tennessee or Kentucky, which is where he's at now. So, and these are people, I submit to you this, and this goes all the way up to the president. I submit to you this. Everybody that lived in segregation, anybody that lived in segregation during the segregation era, they should not be in government. That go from the president on down. If you lived in a segregated America, you should not be in government because your mind is still warped by that time period. That goes for the Supreme Court justices. That goes for everybody. Your mind is still warped by the days gone by. And this is his thinking. His thinking is African Americans, Americans. So my question to you is, what is an American? What is an American? Who is he talking about? When he says African Americans vote at a higher clip than Americans, who is he talking about? Is he talking about everybody else? Is he talking about the Latino community? Is he talking about the Hispanic, the Asian community? Is he talking about the Islamic community? Who is he talking about? So one of the things that the John R. Lewis voting rights bill would do is it would add back pre-clearance into these southern states and get them to wipe off when Governor Kemp won Georgia, he was Secretary of State of Georgia. And the Secretary of State of Georgia, they count the ballots. They make the rules and regulations for ballots. So when a guy is running for governor and he's the Secretary of State, he wiped out 300,000 voters off the voting blocks. Excuse me. And Stacey Abrams is coming back. She's going to have a rematch. So I've been watching the news lately, and I've been watching how Donald Trump is in trouble, and his daughter is being subpoenaed, and Eric Trump took the fifth. He pled the Fifth Amendment 500 times. 500 times he pled not to incriminate himself. 500 times. It's a whole lot going on in the news. But I will say this: it's not going to be Joe Biden that's going to lose the midterms. It's not going to be because of him. It's going to be because of Stacey Abrams. Not Stacey Abrams. I'm sorry. It's going to be because of dude from West Virginia, Manchin. It's going to be because of Manchin and Sinema of Arizona. Manchin of West Virginia, Christian Sinema of Arizona. It's going to be because of those two. Those two are going to lose the House and the Senate. It's going to tie. When they lose the House and the Senate, if they lose the House and the Senate, Joe Biden is going to be a lame duck president for 2 years. You talk about not getting nothing passed now. Wait until they lose the House and Senate. Which is why the January 6th Commission, which is why they're moving at a faster pace, because they know if they lose the 2022 midterms, they're going to lose this investigation because the Republicans are going to drop it. They're not going to keep it going. So, and the Republican Party is already putting people in place to steal the next election all over the country. You got states that are changing laws to say that the legislature can decide whether or not the Secretary of State did a proper job. You got a lot going on. But I'm going to leave it here at 10 minutes. Let me know what you guys think about Mitch McConnell segregating Americans and African Americans. And I will see you on the next one. And today is Saturday, and I normally don't do them on Saturdays, but I know I've been out for a couple of days, and I thought I'd get one in for you guys. So let me know what you think, and I will see you on the next one. All right? Y'all take care. I'm out.